phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
After the conclusion of Week 6, many teams in FBS college football are officially halfway through their regular season. Some are exceeding expectations, and some have been outright disappointing. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my Week 6 takeaways. If there's any certain takeaways that you want to see that were not mentioned in the video, drop them down in the comment section below. As usual, before I move on, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. The first takeaway that I have in today's video is all about Quinn Ewers and the Texas Longhorns. And that is Quinn Ewers is a top-level college football quarterback right now, and that this win that they had versus OU for Texas is one that is going to be monumental for their season, at least it seems like. In Quinn Ewers' first game back from injury, he didn't miss a beat. Versus OU, they won 49-0. He completed 67.7% of his passes, threw for 289 yards, had 4 touchdowns through the air, compared to 1 interception. He ultimately played very consistent throughout the entire game, and even made some very good throws that not many quarterbacks can make, like the one that he had to Bijan Robinson. Overall, this is a pretty big win for Texas. They won 49-0, and despite OU not looking like a very good team right now, especially these last few weeks, on the defensive side of the ball, they still won 49-0 versus a team that is their biggest rivals in the sport, and a team that has had their number these last few years, especially last season when Texas blew a huge lead to OU, and it ultimately really kind of ruined their season in a sense, as they never quite recovered from that loss. They now have the golden hat back and just dominated OU 49-0, completely humiliating them. And of course, this could give them a lot of momentum for the rest of the season and give them a lot of hope for a Big 12 title push. Sticking with the Big 12 and staying in the state of Texas, the next takeaway that I have is that TCU is a legit team. They currently sit in at 5-0 and number 13 in the AP poll, and are coming off a very big win on the road against an undefeated top 25 opponent in Kansas, winning 38-31. This entire season, TCU has not missed a beat, beating Colorado 38-13. Tarleton State 59-17, SMU 42-34, and Oklahoma, of course, 55-24. The way that TCU has been playing, they look like a very good team and one that's top in the Big 12. I would count on them making a very good push to make a Big 12 title run. Of course, it's going to be tough. They still have to play teams such as Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Texas, Baylor, and even Texas Tech that look pretty good as well, all for the rest of the season. And the Big 12 honestly looks like a pretty tough conference this year, top to bottom, when really looking at it. It's going to be tough for TCU, but if they keep up their play, they definitely are going to be a top team, and this is probably one of their best teams or best starts that they've had in quite some time. Moving on to my next takeaway, I'm going to be talking about the UCLA Bruins. And my takeaway on them is that they have a real shot to win the Pac-12. Currently, they are 6-0, one of the top teams in the nation. As of right now in the AP poll, UCLA, they currently sit in at number 11, just outside the top 10. And they're coming off 2 big wins, as they defeated a top 25 Washington team in Week 5, and in this past Week 6, they beat number 11 Utah 42-32. And this was a Utah team that a lot of people thought were going to beat UCLA, and a Utah team that was on fire since losing their first game to Florida. This UCLA team looks very good right now. The offense is averaging 41.5 points per game, which ranks number 10 on the FBS level, and the defense has been playing pretty well as well, only giving up 22.7 points per game. Obviously, it could be better, but overall, the defense has been okay. Most of the season, they've been controlling games as well. They had one scare in Week 3 versus South Alabama, in which they won 32-31, but besides that, UCLA has looked very good, and they seem to be on fire right now. For the rest of the season, they have to play Oregon, Stanford, Arizona State, Arizona, USC, and Cal. Obviously, the two biggest games on their schedule remaining is at Oregon and versus their rivals USC. It's unsure how the Bruins are going to play for the rest of the season, but make sure to keep an eye out for them for the rest of the year, as they're playing some very good football and have a real chance at winning the Pac-12. The next takeaway that I have in today's video is about the Oklahoma Sooners, and that is they have to fix that defense fast, or they're going to be in some real trouble in year one of the Brent Venables era. They are currently 3-3. Their defense is giving up 29 points a game, and they've lost 3 straight games. But ignore that their defense is allowing 29 points a game, because we're going to be talking about the Big 12 play defense, in which their first 3 Big 12 conference games, they've played Kansas State, TCU, and Texas. All 3 games they've lost, and in those 3 games, they've given up 41 points, 55, and most recently to Texas, 49 points. The Big 12 overall this year looks very competitive, and up and down is very deep in terms of competition around the entire conference. The remaining schedule for the Sooners, they have to play versus Kansas, at Iowa State, versus Baylor, at West Virginia, versus Oklahoma State, and in their final game, they travel to Lubbock and have to take on Texas Tech. That's not going to be the easiest stretch of the season, and it's really hard to believe that you're saying that about OU, especially even imagine how they've been in recent years. But the way that this defense is playing, it's hard to say that they have any guaranteed wins on this schedule. The defense is going to have to fix itself fast, and Brent Venables is going to have to fix it fast as well with that defense, as it looks downright terrible. Let's be real. The Sooners offense, they can score. Disclaimer, with Dillon Gabriel. I'm not talking about Davis Bevell. We saw how that went versus Texas. They scored 0 points. But with Dillon Gabriel, the offense can score, and is overall a pretty good offense. But the offense isn't good enough to have a performance that's going to outplay the defense, giving up upwards of high 40s to 50 points per game. The last and final takeaway that I have in today's video is that Mississippi State is a lot better of a team than a lot of people thought they were going to be at the start of the 2022 season. Currently, Mississippi State sits in at 5-1 and is currently ranked number 16 in the AP Top 25 poll. They are coming off a huge win versus Arkansas, in which they won in a blowout fashion, 40-17. Back-to-back weeks in SEC play, in which they won both of their games in blowout fashions. The first one being versus Texas A&M, in which they won 42-24. The rest of their season is going to be very tough, as they have to play at Kentucky, at Alabama, versus Auburn, versus Georgia, versus East Tennessee State, and at Ole Miss. Some of those games are going to be extremely tough, like Kentucky, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, and maybe even potentially Auburn. They're really hard to judge sometimes. You never really know with Auburn. They're having a pretty bad season right now, but sometimes they show up and play some good football, or at least make it look like it's very competitive. But let's get back to the point. This Mississippi State team is playing at a very high level, and I feel like you have to give a lot of credit when credit is due to quarterback 1, Will Rogers, who has completed nearly 72% of his passes, has thrown for over 2,000 yards, 22 touchdown passes, and 3 interceptions in 6 games played. He's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the nation right now. They're going to have a true test for the rest of the 22 season, but this Mississippi State team is shaping up to be a good one. Well guys, if you made it this far in the video, if you want a certain takeaway on a team that wasn't mentioned in today's video, drop them down in the comment section below, and I'll give my takeaway on them. Before you guys head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.